Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, Tim Tebow is set to join the Eagles, but is that a good fit? Plus, hear what Floyd Mayweather says about Muhammad Ali's career, and we'll break down the NBA playoffs. Which teams are already in trouble? All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast, which starts right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. Carrie Champion, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. Thank you at home for joining us. How was your weekend, sir?
It was lovely. How was y'all weekend?
Mine was nice.
Till last night.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right.
I warned you Friday. I was going to get 3 hours of sleep. 3 hours of sleep, man. I'm hurting. I stayed up to watch that.
Before we recap that, I'll tell you what's on today's show. Stephen A's All Access with Floyd Mayweather will air, and some of the interview, we have parts of it. So we'll air that here on the show and all week long. And actually leading up to the fight, Stephen A., you'll be able to give us some insight. A lot.
Some.
He will also give us his perspective as well.
Just a touch.
Correct?
Yeah.
All right. Plus, we have draft prospects on the show. Again, every day this week. We start with former wideout, Alabama wideout Amari Cooper. And, of course, the last thing on the show today, reunited, and it feels so good. Tim Tebow, I don't know if you heard this.
Your phone's ringing.
I don't know. Isn't that ringing? I don't know what it is.
It's an alarm.
I'm sorry.
Wait. It has come to this for Tim Tebow on this show. He gets like 5th billing.
Yeah.
5th billing.
We're not even starting the show with Tim Tebow.
We're not starting the show with Tim Tebow. Is that
I give up.
Oh, okay.
Don't blame me.
You're done.
It's not my fault.
Nope. We are not. Do you want to start the show with Tim Tebow?
No, I do not.
We know that.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. He is reunited with his former buddy Mark Sanchez. We'll get to that sometime in the show. First up, the Clippers snapped the Spurs' 11-game win streak in Game 1 and a dominant win behind CP3's 32 points. Blake Griffin's 26 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. Puts him in rare playoff air, joining the likes of Jordan and Pippen. Coach Popovich says his team just didn't play defense.
Their defense was better than our offense. That's the bottom line. Their aggressiveness, their physicality, their athleticism really hurt us offensively.
All right, going into the series, Stephen A., you said you felt like the Spurs not getting the 2 seed could be a problem. After what you saw last night, are you under the belief that the Spurs are in trouble?
Well, I definitely think they are. I picked them to win this series in 6 games because of their experience, their championship tested. But I also assumed that everybody was going to be healthy. And one of the things that I noticed, Skip Bayless, last night, Thiago Splitter, I can't believe I'm putting that level of value on him. But Skip is right. He is the anchor of San Antonio's defense. Without him on the floor, you got a problem. You're talking about 9 minutes and 57 seconds was all that he played. That's it, okay? And he was limping some of the times that I could tell when he was on the court. You combine that with Aaron Baines, he's no match for Blake Griffin, as Blake Griffin illustrated with his performance last night. DeAndre Jordan with Greg Popovich trying to employ the Hacker Jordan philosophy in the first half. I mean, and he still ended up converting 4 of 8 free throws. That didn't exactly work out. Believe it or not, shooting 50% from the free throw line is an incredible feat for DeAndre Jordan, because that's the one impediment to me that he has that prevents him from being the best big man in the game, because he is simply that formidable defensively, particularly with rebounding as well. But Skip Bayless, the Los Angeles Clippers just seemed on a mission. Last night, Chris Paul was sensational. Blake Griffin was the star that he needed to be. Jamal Crawford coming off the bench and going on that little spree of his, ultimately finishing with 17 points. The momentum just seemed to be a little bit too much for San Antonio to deal with, but that's just one game. These are the San Antonio Spurs. You don't count them out, but again, you make your predictions assuming guys are healthy. And I remember I didn't even know that Thiago Splitter was going to be out until Skip had mentioned it to me, to be quite honest with you. So that was the last game of the regular season against the Pelicans. He came back yesterday, did not seem like himself, and that leaves Tim Duncan at the mercy of Blake Griffin with DeAndre Jordan, because Aaron Baines is not going to be enough for you to deal with that front line of the Los Angeles Clippers. I would tell you they're in trouble, but I'm simply saying saying that because their horses don't seem there. Tiago Splitter's not healthy, and I don't know what the hell is going on with Danny Green. I really don't understand it. You just have to be better, and that's not been the case with him right now. He shot 2 for 11 last night, 1 of 7 from three-point range, finished with just 6 points. You're going to need a level of production from Danny Green from the perimeter, and just Tiago Splitter to be on the floor in order to win this series.
You're going to switch your pick?
No. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not like, I ain't fazed by it.
On this show, I have always been completely, objectively honest about my San Antonio Spurs. And right now, I may lose my mayorship over this, but I'm here to tell you, in all honesty, they're in big, bad trouble right now. Big trouble. Bad trouble. Like, may not get over this trouble. I'm talking about I will still support them. I picked them to win this in 7 because I thought they were going to have to win a Game 7 at the Clippers.
Yep.
Now I have my doubts they could win that Game 7. I would now not bet a nickel on my Spurs in 7 prediction. And I'll tell you why. I wanted to see, and remember, I picked the Spurs to win Game 1 because I wanted to see them flex like defending champions last night. I wanted them to make an opening round statement, a Game 1 statement to the Clippers. No, you still don't belong in our league. They were not capable of making that statement last night. I watched the Los Angeles Clippers for the first time ever in the Popovich-Duncan era feel what it felt like to dominate a playoff game against my San Antonio Spurs. Not only physically, but psychologically and mentally dominate the game. This looked like a mismatch to me, and this was creating a new monster in the Los Angeles Clippers. Remember, the Clippers came into this game having won 14 of 15, and the only loss out of those 15 games was by 4 to Golden State. And I'm here to tell you right here, right now, the Clippers, I think, are playing at a slightly higher level than the Golden State Warriors. Just slightly. It's close.
I'm talking about, are you talking about the one game playoff or the last couple of weeks of the season as well?
Well, just 14 or 15 the last couple of weeks of the season. Yeah. So I'm looking at this team. Could the Clippers win the West? You better believe they could win the West. After what we saw last night, that was no fluke. That was San Antonio just couldn't get there. You know what it reminded me of? Take me back 3 years, or please don't. Remember the 4 straight games the crazy hot coming-of-age Oklahoma City Thunder won against my Spurs after Spurs won Game 1 and 2 at San Antonio? 4 straight games. They were mismatches where I finally had to sit back and say, that's just too good. That's too much. That's the feeling I got at the end of this game last night because I saw no silver linings here. I saw a tour de force of what I call the Clippers' big 3. I don't put DeAndre in that big 3. I put Jamal Crawford because Blake and Chris Paul and Jamal Crawford combined to shoot 29 of 60. That's absurd numbers. That's 60% almost. And if those 3 are going to make those shots like that, it's just like the Spurs just sit back and Pop says, give me another glass of wine. They're too good. It just wasn't meant to be. My Spurs last night turned into a bunch of DeAndre Jordans at the free throw line. Did you see this? 14 of 26?
Yes.
That won't win any playoff games.
Yeah, but you know that's an aberration.
But I've been seeing it lately. They've been wobbling at the free throw line lately. And then Tony Parker last night, he was just lost. He's a beat-up shell of his former dominating self. I'm sorry. He's the spark plug of this whole attack. When he can't go, they can't go. Danny Green, as you said, he's in a mind-blowing slump from the three-point line where it goes up, and I'm like, will it even hit the rim? Will it hit the rim? I have no idea. I don't know what's happening. Tiago Splitter is the key to their interior defense. When he is right, he plays Blake Griffin pretty well. He does, seriously. He can sort of anticipate him. He can't get pushed around, and he's quick enough of foot that he can kind of match his quickness a little bit. He can't stop him, but he can thwart him a little bit. Poor Aaron Baines, he can't defend anybody. It's a joke. I mean, don't make a big deal. He got posterized. Yeah, he's always going to get posterized. What do you expect? It's not fair. So, to me, I sit back and I just say, you know what? They're not going to win game 2. That crowd was crazy last night. They got challenged and they got crazy.
That's right. They got challenged, and I got to admit, that crowd showed up. Like, it was something special.
I know they had the red T-shirts.
I was mad I wasn't there. I was jealous last night. It would have been special to be at the Staples Center, no question. But I look at the San Antonio Spurs, and again, you make your prediction based on the way. You remember they had won into the game against New Orleans, having won 11 straight, and you really, from a health perspective, you really only heard about Thiago Split. He was out, calf strain and what have you. He was going to be back. Outside of that, you thought Tony Parker, was ready. You thought, I spoke to Danny Green before game 1. He came on my radio show Friday. He was like, we're going to be ready. We're in a pretty good position health-wise and stuff like that. Tony Parker didn't look healthy last night. Thiago Splitter didn't look healthy last night. And when I made the Clippers my preseason pick to go to the NBA Finals, right? My reticence as the season progressed was, my God, DeAndre Jordan's at 39%, and Spencer Hawes isn't giving them anything. What are they going to do? But guess what? The way they're coming at it, if DeAndre Jordan hits 50% of his free throws, just 50% of his free throws, Skip, okay, I'm sorry. You got a shot here. You got a shot here.
Final point. I have been hard on Chris Paul on this show before.
He showed up.
He was big time last night. In the fourth quarter, he made 6 out of 7 shots. He slammed the door. He played like the best, by far, point guard in the game last night. He's just driven. He's got that look. He's got that, I'm on a mission.
Look right now. That's what I've been telling you. He's on a mission. I'm rooting for him. I just don't know. I mean, it's the San Antonio Spurs we're talking about here. But I wouldn't be mad if the Clippers ended up going to the final. It wouldn't bother me.
You wouldn't be mad about that?
Me, not even a little bit. Let me be clear.
Let me be clear. It would bother him.
Yeah.
All right.
We still got games 3 and 4 back home. We'll see.
That's right.
Game 2 Wednesday, 10:30 Eastern.
Don't get so pessimistic.
At the Staples Center.
Honest.
Skip is just saying he doesn't think they'll get game 2. Teams that win game 1 of a best of 7 go on to win the series 77% of the time. So game.
And by the way, the Spurs had won 11 straight game
11 straight game 1s, and they dropped this one. All right, so we'll see. It's not over yet, sir. There's a guy named Tim Tebow. He signed with the team, or he plans to sign with the team, a 1-year deal, minimum salary, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter and multiple reports. Tebow flew into Philly on Sunday, and he'll be at the Eagles complex today for the start of the team's offseason program. The signing was first reported by Fox Sports. Before signing Tebow, they decided that they wanted to try and trade Matt Barkley. They weren't able to do so, so they decided they would sign or attempt to sign one Tim Tebow. It reunites him with his former pal, Mark Sanchez, Sam Bradford, another Heisman Trophy winner. Crowded quarterback roster there, Stephen A. Smith. What are your thoughts? Do you like that the Eagles signed Tim Tebow? He's your dear friend.
You know the Eagles. You know them inside and out.
And
you're the Eagles expert.
Is his dear friend.
Look at Skip. You're the Eagles expert. He's such a troublemaker.
Come on. Tell us what's going on.
Let me say this to you. I find it funny that Tim Tebow makes, he's getting ready to get signed to an NFL team. And they're like, he's throwing a spiral now. He's throwing a spiral. I mean, that's the news. He's throwing a spiral. I mean, it's unbelievable. But with that being said, I'm happy for him.
Okay.
He's my friend.
He is your friend.
Okay. I am happy for him. I think, Skip, he has a shot, and here's why. Because we don't know about the health of Sam Bradford, how long he's going to last, and number 2, and more importantly, how much belief do we have in a Mark Sanchez or a Matt Barkley? So in light of that reality, can I see Tim Tebow getting thrown up in there and Chip Kelly trying to exercise some kind of read option or whatever, especially when you consider the fact that a Macklin is going, a Deshaun Jackson is going, and now LaShawn McCoy is going, and so none of the running backs that you have are particularly reliable. Like you can't pencil it in. DeMarco Murray is there, so I know he's going to get the ball or what have you. But I'm just saying, could you imagine running a read option with DeMarco Murray? Could work effectively. So all of those things being considered, could Tebow end up doing well for Philadelphia? Could he end up making this roster? Could it end up being something that's beneficial for the team? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I am happy for Tim Tebow.
You're not making the case he could be the starting.
No, I'm not. I'm not making that case. Okay. But I am happy for Tim Tebow. Well, first of all, he better not be able to be a starter when there's some question mark as to whether or not he may even make the roster. And you traded Nick Foles for a quarterback that's scheduled to make $13 million this year, and Sam Bradford. He had damn well better be the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. But having said all of that, I must acknowledge to you that, again, I'm happy for Tim Tebow. I'm glad he's getting the opportunity. I believe Tim Tebow belongs on an NFL team in an NFL locker room. Just don't tell me he can throw the football.
He's throwing a spiral.
He's throwing a spiral now. Congratulations. He's throwing a spiral. This is unbelievable. Yeah, go ahead.
I am not going to overreact to this. Remember, Tim Tebow has been basically out of football for 2 years, not just a year, for 2 football seasons. And now he's fighting for a 3rd quarterback roster spot with the Philadelphia Eagles, who appear from a distance, as we talked about on the show, to be in a little disarray. And I'm still not ruling Chip Kelly out of the Mariota Derby. So that could dramatically change things on draft night, depending on how things fell.
Okay.
Are you counting Chip out of that? I'm not. He says he's out, that Sam Bradford is not, as to quote Chip, a chip as in bargaining chip. But who knows what might happen there. They have tried hard to trade Matt Barkley, and they failed. They tried to trade him to the Dolphins, and they failed. I'm assuming they will dispense with Matt Barkley at some point. So, again, does Tebow have a shot to win the 3rd spot? He does. But now let's go a little step farther here. If any coach in the National Football League can utilize Tim Tebow's strengths, Chip Kelly will. Chip Kelly does not think. He refuses to think like an NFL coach. He still thinks like a college coach. He still runs a college read offense. And I'm here to point out that over the last 2 years, what NFL team ran the read option almost twice as much as any other team did? 514 times Chip Kelly called the read option in Philly over the last 2 years. That's 235 more times than Seattle called it for Russell Wilson. Think about that. What does Tim Tebow do by far the best? He runs the read option. He ran it smoothly and extremely effectively in his first series of starts with the Denver Broncos. Even you would agree with that, right?
I do agree with that.
Because he turned a 1-4 team into the NFL's leading #1 rushing attack.
That is correct.
You can talk about his throwing or lack thereof all you want. They led the NFL in rushing, and he didn't take over until the 5th game. Well, that's pretty significant, and most of it was done with the read option. One thing Tebow does with the football in his hands, he can do this really well. He can ride and decide. He can make good decisions. He's a smooth, effortless ball handler. Now, whether you talk about throwing or not is a whole other issue.
That's the only issue I've ever had.
But I was told last night by an NFL insider, guy I really respect, he said, if Tim Tebow can just make the routine throws in this offense, he'll be really good for Chip Kelly. And in the big picture, you step back and you say, well, Sam Bradford, can you really trust his ability to stay healthy? Because I never have. And I watched him all through college, and I told you that before the draft. Okay? Can you really trust Mark Sanchez's mental toughness when it really counts? No. And I told you the ultimate accident waiting to happen last year wasn't Tony Romo, it was Mark Sanchez. Can you really trust him? I believe Chip Kelly saw enough of Mark Sanchez to know, I don't know if I can win with him, win big with him. Chip Kelly loves the intangibles of Tim Tebow. He loves his ability to run the read option. So will Tim get a shot, just at least a shot here, to win the starting job? I believe they'll let him compete for it. Now, whether he could even make the roster, I don't know yet. We got to see, because now back to your point. Tom House is a good friend of mine. I've known him forever. He's the throwing guru who's had Tim in his camp now for 3 years in a row. He has tutored Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Carson Palmer. And Tom has told me, and he told Chip Kelly, because Chip spent a lot of time talking to Tom House, in workouts at USC, these are off-season kind of workouts, Tim Tebow throws the heck out of it. He throws it beautifully. It's more than just a spiral. And I know Tom House really well. He does not blow smoke. And he has flat out told me, if you could just see the guy throw, you'd say, that works, because he's got a strong enough arm, and he throws it well. What happened when he went to New England? I thought, and I'm going to be honest about this, harshly honest, Tim Tebow choked at New England. He went up there in the company of Tom Brady, and he came all apart. I have never seen him throw the football that poorly. That was too much pressure for him to try to compete with even Ryan Mallett and Tom Brady. But he can't translate what he can do in a session with Tom House to the football field. And if you can't, this is his last stop. It'll be his best stop, his best shot. But he's going to have to be able to live with the pressure, to relax and throw the football the way he can in these camp workouts.
Wait a second, Mr. Skip Bayless. I'm not letting you slide so easily. I don't recall you ever saying that you thought Tim Tebow choked in New England. Why is this the first time I'm hearing? No. You said he played bad, but I'm saying the word choke. I've never heard you say. Why are you? How come we're just learning this from you?
Because I'm going to lay it on the table for Tim Tebow right now. This is it. You're going to have to reach down into all those intangibles I've boasted about, and you're going to have to pull it up and execute it under a lot of pressure in Philadelphia. I'm talking about camp pressure. I'm talking about starting today in their off-season. He's going to be there today, off-season workouts. You're going to have to throw it impressively enough to convince Chip Kelly that at least you can make the routine
Another
gross.
question, rhetorical maybe. Is it possible that Tim Tebow is going to be so fixated on showing that he can throw the football that it can impede his ability to run the read option? Because he's going to be so fixated on proving that he can throw that he's going to get away from what has worked for him, and that could ultimately cost him? I think that's very possible, Skip Bayless.
I think the read option comes second nature to him. It's just in his blood. He's done it for so long. He did it all through high school and college.
And the other thing is, we must ask ourselves the question, is Tim Tebow, the football player, the one that's being added to Chip Kelly's locker room, or Tim Tebow, the person? Because with Deshaun Jackson gone, with LaShawn McCoy out the door, with Jeremy Maclin out the door, who are the kind of guys that Chip Kelly is looking to have?
Okay, well, I'm going to bring up your favorite and my favorite Philadelphia Eagle, Riley Cooper.
Yes.
Who was Tim Tebow's roommate in college?
I have no idea.
Riley Cooper.
I didn't know that.
Who caught?
I didn't know that.
When they were seniors at the University of Florida, who caught 9 touchdown passes from Tim Tebow, 51 catches overall for almost 1,000 yards. Riley Cooper. You don't think he's got some rapport with Riley Cooper?
He has some rapport with Riley Cooper, but if this were most other people, Skip, we would be asking ourselves, that was your roommate, how close were you guys? Okay. Had these guys,
you know what you feel? You feel free to ask that question.
That's right.
Because I'd be the first to ask that question.
I mean, has this guy, did he speak like that around you? Him meeting Tim Tebow.
Sure.
I mean, that's a legitimate question right now.
Cooper speak that way.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, these are all these questions now.
I know.
These are all these questions because when you think about Riley Cooper, you certainly don't think about Tim Tebow.
Are you, being with your connections in Philly, are you hearing anything about what they're saying about the signing? Are they excited about it?
No. A lot of people, peeps that I know in Philadelphia are saying, wow. They were a bit surprised that this has happened. But it had been rumored to be happening for weeks now.
Okay.
And Skip knows that a hell of a lot better than even I do. But the bottom line is that in the end, Tim Tebow is a quality guy, and he's a football player. He deserves the opportunity to prove. Just because he's signing this one-year deal doesn't mean he's going to make the Philadelphia Eagles roster. Sure. He's not guaranteed the spot. He has to go on there and earn it. And I have no problem with him being given that opportunity because I think his success in the NFL has earned him a chance to make the roster, but not a guarantee, particularly as a quarterback, because I still need to see whether or not he can throw.
Look, Chip Kelly has been all over the map with his quarterback situation. Yeah. So this is just another crazy wrinkle. But in the big picture, Stephen A., Chip Kelly, now that he has personnel control of the Eagles, has been on a mission to say, watch this to the National Football League. This is the ultimate watch this. Because I've told you, if I just gave you the figures, if I gave you the statistics of what Tim Tebow did in his first run as still basically a rookie starting quarterback with a bad football team, if I showed you those numbers and you didn't know they were Tim Tebow's numbers, you'd say, gee, he didn't get another shot in the league. Well, Rex Ryan buffaloed him. He frankly lied to him. Tebow took the Jets' opportunity because he thought he was going to get a real shot to compete with Mark Sanchez, and he never got a chance.
Gotcha.
And the New England thing was completely ill-fated. Remember, Tebow had been to, 5 different quarterback gurus, different instructors. House was the last one that he went to.
Well, see, first of all, I'm not into, listen, I don't know House. I'd like to meet him and talk to him someday, but I have nothing but respect for his resume. But don't bring up Carson Palmer, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and then bring up Tim Tebow, because he didn't have to teach them how to throw.
Right.
They knew how to throw. okay?
He
and they knew
refined.
that. I understand that, but I'm just saying they were there already.
Sure.
In terms of being passers.
Yeah,
so no, Tim Tebow ain't even in the same class as those individuals. So I'd have to see it to believe it. That's point number one.
But you know what he keeps telling me? And again, he's not a smoke blower. He'd say if he didn't have the name on his back, if I just showed you videotape of this guy throwing alongside those guys, he'd say he throws it just as well as other guys do.
But isn't it fair to say, Skip, that there's a lot of people who have bloviated about Tim Tebow because he's such an incredible guy that you have people who genuinely find themselves reaching and extending far beyond themselves to praise him because of the kind of person he appears to be. I think people that get around Tim Tebow, I question all the objectivity, all of them, because Tim Tebow is that great of a guy. And you find yourself rooting for him more than you root for most. And that's what I find. That's why, no disrespect to Mr. House. I'm just simply saying, you get around Tim Tebow enough, any level of progress, you're going to sit there and praise. I get it. I'm not trying to knock Mr. House in any way. I'm just simply saying Tim Tebow has that kind of effect on people. You get around him, it's like,
because he's your friend.
It's my man. I swear to you, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I really want him to succeed.
Okay, here's what happened. Bottom line, before he went to New England, people like you were so hard on him because he couldn't throw. It got to him psychologically. I think he started to come apart at the seams. It's almost like you get the throwing yips, the way Tiger had the chip yips the first couple of tournaments of the year. After a while, you overthink it, you over-try.
And just a full disclosure, Skip, I emphatically disagree with that. I think that Tim Tebow appreciated folks like me because I was like, hey, look, I don't think you can throw. Tim Tebow came up to me and literally thanked me for my criticism because he said, quote, it's all about football. But whereas yourself, you talked about him, you raved about him, and I'm bringing this up because I want you to address it. You praised him so much, some would argue that you bloated expectations for him, and as a result,
he would argue that.
I'm saying, and as a result, that put him in a tougher spot than my criticism of him ever could.
Okay, what do you always say about the criticism you take on this show?
Sure.
You get backed into a corner to defend yourself, and then if you lift those quotes out, it's as if you're making that your opinion when actually you were just defending. You were responding.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So all I said before the draft was I'd take Tim Tebow at the bottom of that draft. He went 25th overall.
That's true.
And that if you let him run only the read option, only the Florida read option, he could win games in the NFL. No Pro Bowl. He could throw it well enough to win games because he ran the read option so well. And what happened? Out of desperation, Denver finally said, okay, let's let him try this. And then every day, somebody sat in that chair. It was either you or whoever else. We're going to have Mark Schlereth on late. He was all over me. People attacked me every day. How can you say this? And I'd say, well, let's see what happens, because I think he's going to go 7-4 as the starter. And he went 7-4 and he won a playoff game. That was pretty great.
Well, but the point that I'm trying to make to you, Skip, is that all the points that you just elocuted is absolutely on the money. You did say that. But, Skip, most times you said it, it was unsolicited. It wasn't you being provoked. Sometimes it happened.
Well, then I started reacting to his performances.
So what happened is you couldn't let it go. It's 2 years later, you still torture me about the Pittsburgh pass. I mean, come on now. It ain't like somebody being up here instigating. Stop it. It's not like people get to you and go like, oh, yeah, see what Tim Tebow isn't doing or whatever, and they got to remind you. Oh, no. Every now and then you bring it up to rub it in our faces about what you knew about Tim Tebow.
Because he was out of the league after that.
All I'm saying is,
how many rookie quarterbacks go 8-5,
and then they can't
8-5, and then they're out of the league? Are you kidding me?
Listen,
they're out of the league.
Hey,
what is that about?
I told you before, the Jets. I totally agree with you. He was sabotaged by the New York Jets. He was sabotaged by the New York Jets, and that was really the downward part right there. Well, what are you supposed to do if you're Denver? I got a chance to keep Tebow or to get Peyton Manning. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to roll with Peyton Manning.
Okay, last quick point.
Go ahead.
Please.
I hope Tim has sort of matured in this, and you know how much I respect his spiritual views and his stances that he takes. It's a la what we talked about Manny Pacquiao. He's doing what the Bible tells him to do. But now, at this stop, last stop, but a great stop for him, he should sort of rein that back in just a little bit.
I agree.
Just wait.
Yeah.
Go prove it on the football field, then use your platform to speak of your religion.
Okay.
Okay, so it's already here, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, First Take on the road in Vegas. We'll be at the MGM Grand Pool Complex Wednesday the 29th through Friday the 1st. Special guests thus far, 50 Cent, Jamie Foxx, Jake Gyllenhaal, plenty more. Doors open 5:30 a.m. local time. Show will be live at 7 a.m. local. So straight from the casino to First Take, folks. We'll see you on the road in Vegas. Well, it's the biggest fight in recent memory. It's just 11 days away. In between the personal attacks traded between the two camps, we've heard very little from Floyd Mayweather until now. Stephen A. Smith spent a day with the undefeated champion, and he talked about the fight, his legacy, and that he believes he's better than Muhammad Ali.
No one can ever brainwash me to make me believe that Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali was better than me. No one can ever brainwash me and tell me that. But one thing I will do, I'm going to take my hat off to them and respect those guys, because those are the guys that paved the way for me to be where I'm at today.
You don't believe that Muhammad Ali was better than you?
How? He only fought in one weight class. Leon Spinks beat him when he had 7 fights. They had never put a fight in there with Floyd Mayweather with 7 fights. So you're going to tell me that it's cool to lay on the ropes and take punishment and let a man tire himself out from beating you, and then he basically fatigued. You hit him with a few punches, and then he go down and quit, and you want to be glorified for that? Absolutely not. Not me.
Floyd Mayweather on Muhammad Ali. Skip Bayless, your take.
I'm not sure where to start here.
I don't know about that.
I certainly enjoyed all of your interviews, your 7.5 hours with Floyd Mayweather Jr. I unfortunately read the entire transcript. I think it was like 17,000 words. Those are only the excerpts that we got on First Take.
Right.
Man, it's a lot of words. Collision of your words and his words. But anyway, now back to my statement here. In all of my career, I have never encountered an athlete who, number one, flaunts his wealth the way Floyd flaunts his wealth, and who, number two, is so blindly full of himself to the fault of those who did pave the way. He did acknowledge that much, so I appreciate that much. But the way he just blithely scoffed at Ali's accomplishments, it wasn't just disrespectful, Stephen A. Smith. It was flat out blasphemous. Now, to your credit, you did go back at him. You can't. Okay, and to Floyd's credit, you know what? Early in Ali's career, he did get dropped. Not by Burt Cooper, by Henry Cooper in London. He fought him twice in London. And he did get dropped, and he got right back up and won the fight. And to Floyd's credit, later in his career, at age 36 in Vegas, Ali had been through war, man, the equivalent of boxing war. And at age 36, he did not take Leon Spinks, who had 7 professional fights, seriously enough. And he lost that fight in a split decision and bounced right back 7 months later, went to New Orleans. I was there and beat him soundly because he could beat him soundly. Now, let's go back to what happened in between Henry Cooper and Leon Spinks. Twice, as you well know, Muhammad Ali fought the great Sonny Liston, and he beat him twice, the great Sonny Liston. Can you please show me on Floyd's resume where he fought a Sonny Liston? Anybody in Sonny Liston's class? Because I don't see anybody. I'm sorry. Right. And then let's just go to Joe Frazier right away here. 3 times, lost the first one, obviously, won the next 2. These were epic fights, all 3 of them. Can you please show me one Joe Frazier on Floyd's resume anywhere in his ring record? Just one. If you can show me one, I'll say you got me on that guy. But, man, I'm looking at De La Hoya at age 34 and Shane Mosley at age 38. Cotto at 31. I don't know, Marquez at 36. I'm not seeing a Joe Frazier. I'll even throw a Ken Norton in there. We know Ken Norton Jr. from football, but those of my age range, his father could box because in the first,
except against Foreman. But go ahead.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's true. That's right. Which set up.
He was made for Foreman. Foreman destroyed him.
Okay. Ken Norton broke Muhammad Ali's jaw in the first fight. And Ali had to come back and win a battle with him in the second fight. I was there for both of those. There's no Ken Norton Jr. I don't think anywhere on Floyd's pretty resume. It's 47-0. I don't see one.
Right.
And then finally, we get to George Foreman.
Got it.
And this is the one that really threw me a curve from Floyd, because this is the one fight where I thought Floyd would say, because we all agree, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a ring master. Man.
Yes, he is.
He is a magician. He is a chess master in the ring. And you don't give this man credit for rope-a-doping a man that we all thought might kill Muhammad Ali, like literally kill him. I know his camp.
People don't realize that they think we're exaggerating when we say that.
His camp feared for his life. For his life. Because this man was just pummeling people. And it looked like Ali at this stage and age in his career, he just couldn't even stand up to the onslaught of this towering behemoth that was George Foreman. Now we know George Foreman selling the grills and he's kind of happy-go-lucky George. No, they're not this guy.
That's not the
glowering. And I would think Floyd would sit back and say, that was beautiful, man, because he beat him with his head and his heart instead of his physicality, right? Well, why wouldn't Floyd respect that just a little bit? He just dismissed it and said, he's glorified for that? Yeah, he is, Floyd. You better believe he is, because he should be. This is Muhammad Ali we're talking about here, and he just dismissed him like, he ain't in my league. Really?
Are you ready?
Yeah. But Stephen A., put it in context for us at home, because that's just this, like, before you led up to that conversation. You got
here's the deal. I went to interview Floyd Mayweather. I was under the impression that I would have a sit-down interview with him. Floyd was like, no, bro, this is all access. Keep the cameras rolling the whole time. Let's go. And everything that you see was Floyd. And there was some parts, like, for example, when we're in the car, in his Bentley, what he calls his ride-around car, whatever, okay? Understand that when we were there, that wasn't an interview. That wasn't an interview. That was he and I debating, like going back and forth.
It was being taped.
I know that.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying to you is that when I was talking to him and they showed the part by the pool table and all that stuff, I'm asking him questions.
Sure.
But when we were in the car, we just two guys. He's driving me to go pick up his $190,000 that he won on the bet.
There we go again. There we go again.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we're driving down there, and he instigates this conversation out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, I ain't asked you about Ali. Where that come from? And he just started going, man, please, none of them are better than me. And he went in like that. Now, obviously, I agree with you from the perspective, nobody is better than the greatest. Muhammad Ali is my guy. Okay, so I'm not even debating that. But all the points that you brought up allow me to impart my little bit of wisdom about the sport of boxing. Skip Bayless, first of all, the sport of boxing has regressed. Used to be 15 rounds when you were at that fight.
Every one of them.
It's 12 now.
Yep.
And guys used to come fight. And by the way, you had these rankings. They had to fight each other. And Howard Cosell, the late, great Howard Cosell, Wild World of Sports. You had these guys ranked in the top 10, literally fighting one another. And you saw it. Pay-per-view took over boxing now. So it's more about marketing. It's not about getting the fights that you want when you want. Why has the UFC elevated in the public's eye and mind over the last several years? It is because of Dana White. You know why? It's not just because of John Bones Jones or anybody else or Anderson Silva or Weidman or any of these guys. It's because you have a guy running the sport that gives the people the fights they want to see when they want to see them. That's not the case now. So when we think about a Norton, a Frazier, Skip, you can go back to even to a lesser degree. Ernie Shavers,
Oscar Bonavino.
Oscar Bonavino. All of these cats. I mean, these brothers was no joke. I mean, I'm a guy, Salvador Sanchez. People don't remember. This dude was. I'm talking about a welterweight. The featherweight division moving on up. This dude was on another level. I mean, he was going to go down as one of the greats until he had. So I forgot whether it was a car accident or what, I don't remember correctly. My point to you is this. You have a situation where the game, the quality of fighters that are out there, we may not know because the sport is controlled more so by promoters today than ever before. Some would argue a Miguel Cotto, a Canelo Alvarez, an Oscar De La Hoya, where Floyd Mayweather fought them. It may not have been the equivalent of Ali Frazier or Ali Foreman, but coming into the fight, Floyd Mayweather against Oscar De La Hoya was tantamount. I'm talking about tantamount to Ali Frazier won or something along those lines. It was Ali not going into the Army, being ostracized from the sport, ultimately coming back, had something to do with it. Canelo Alvarez with Floyd, with the way he was fighting and taking people out. Nobody was forming per se, but that was a pretty mega fight between Canelo Alvarez and Floyd leading into it. The difference is the magician that Floyd is in the ring makes those guys look very, very ordinary, because he ain't sitting there trying to imitate Gaddy Ward, slugging punches, taking punches, getting hit by punches. Floyd is hitting and not getting hit. He's making you miss 4, 5, 6 punch combinations. He's more like a Pernell Whitaker in that regard. And Pernell Whitaker fighting Julio Cesar Chavez. You think that wasn't a big fight? That was a mega fight. But Pernell Whitaker's brilliance and his ability to evade punches puts him in a position. All I'm saying to you is, when you bring up these fights, I definitely agree. No, don't ever take away anything from Muhammad Ali. But the sport of boxing, what it is, isn't what it was. What it was, I mean, you had gladiators going into the ring. Now you got a situation where you got a magician like Floyd Mayweather that sits there and he makes it boring because of how skilled he is.
Are you saying there were potential Fraziers and Listons and Foremans lined up against Floyd, but he turned them into just nobody?
To some degree, yes. Oscar De La Hoya, Miguel Cotto, Canelo Alvarez all come to mind. In their respective division, in their respect, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they were, of course they're not Frazier, they're not Foreman, but that's because the sport was what it was back then. And these are heavyweights. That's why.
Okay, and by the way, to Floyd's point about he only fought in one division, what was he supposed to do, lose 20 pounds and fight as a skeleton?
I agree with that.
You know, like, he's a heavyweight. He's a heavyweight.
I agree with that.
Okay, so bottom line, would you agree with me this was blasphemous?
About Ali, Ali, yes. I think anybody that takes away anything from Muhammad Ali is blasphemous.
The guy I love is Amari Cooper from Alabama. What is there not to like about Amari Cooper?
He finds Cooper coming across at the 15, down the right side to the 5. Touchdown, Alabama! The screen caught by Cooper. Amari down the sideline. He's going to go. Touchdown!
When he came into college football, he was playing like a pro.
It's a little slant to Cooper over the middle of the 15. Angling to the end zone. He'll score. Touchdown, Alabama.
Cooper's the guy.
Wide open, middle of the field. Amari Cooper all alone. He's got it. Good night, first.
He was the 2014 SEC Offensive Player of the Year. He had an SEC single-season record of 124 receptions last season. Todd McShay says he should go third in the draft, while Mel Kiper says maybe fourth. We welcome former Alabama wideout Amari Cooper. Thank you so much for joining the desk. We'll talk about your Floyd pick in just a few moments, but we're not surprised by that. We're not even surprised by that. That's your boy. You had him. I know.
He's a highly intelligent young man.
We knew what you were going to say, but let's talk about the NFL draft. Days away, you are again projected to be the third or fourth pick. Now, I hear, though, you will not be in Chicago. You join the likes of Jameis Winston as well as Marcus Mariota in not attending the draft. Some would view it as dismissive. Explain. Why aren't you attending the draft?
I would just rather be home with my family, get the experience with my sisters, my brother, my mother.
Well, I know that, and I feel where you're coming from with that, but it's striking me as a tad bit odd in this respect. Jameis Winston isn't expected to go. Marcus Mariota isn't expected to go. Usually throughout NFL history, guys will show up to the draft. What's going on? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming you may have had conversations with some of your contemporaries. What's going on now that more guys are feeling comfortable not to show up to the draft?
Well, I'm not sure about any other guys. I know with me, I'm not a big fan of all the spotlight. I just want to stay home and enjoy that time with my family.
I don't want to interrupt, but before you go, Skip, I was told by our Adam Schefter that the NFL doesn't make it easy. They only give you 2 plane tickets. You got to wait all day. You can't necessarily get all of your family and friends there. Is that a factor for you?
Well, that wasn't a huge factor for me. I wasn't going to have many people coming anyways, so.
Okay.
So, as you grew up in Miami, went to Northwestern High School, I'm sure you modeled yourself after some receiver, and I'm going to throw this name out and react to it. But I'm not saying you are the next Jerry Rice, but you always reminded me, because you do it so effortlessly, of Jerry Rice. And I'm always curious, was that ever in your head as a kid? that you watched him and how sweet he ran his routes? And is that at all playing in your head?
Of course. I want to be the best at what I do, and he's the best. So I watched him. I studied him. He's a great route runner. Just the best to do it.
One of the people that I know for a fact that Chris Carter's been working with you. I was interviewing Chris Carter on my radio show a couple of months back, and he just grabbed him and put him on the phone while he was working with us. That's how I got him. That's how he came on the show. But I got to ask you this. With working with Chris Carter can't rave enough about you. How much is he helping you? What are the kind of things you're being told by him as to what it's going to take to be what you are, what you were in college on the next level?
He just told me to stay humble, keep working at my craft, keep sharpening my blade. He's worked with me on my route running a lot, and I wanted to know how to catch those one-handed catches that he made a lot in the NFL. One of the other things I wanted to ask you, on just switching and skip, I know you know about this as well. This kid Kevin White, out of West Virginia, he can ball. He's bigger. There's no question about it.
He's a touch faster and running a 40. I don't know what pads on.
He's not fast.
There you go. Okay, that's fine. I'm getting ready to ask you about that too. But I guess what I'm asking is that, I'm not going to accuse, because I'm not knocking Kevin White. I never met him. He seems like a good guy, just supremely confident in himself. And he's been making proclamations to everyone who will listen that he's the best wide receiver in the draft, not Amari Cooper. First of all, I want to know what your thoughts are about that, how you feel about it, and what do you think of the differences between you and him?
Well, I certainly feel that he should feel that he's the best player in the draft. I think he's a great player. He really goes up and gets the ball. He's really fast, and he's a really great competitor. I don't really get into comparing myself to any other players because I know how detrimental it can be. I feel like if I compare myself to other players, then, two things can happen. I can either say that I'm a lot better than those players, and that'll lead to pride and I'll get complacent, and I don't want that to happen because my skills will decline. On the other hand, if I tell myself that I'm worse than those players, that can lead to doubt, and, I always say a confident person is a competent person, so I just stay away from that.
But you did say you're a little faster.
Oh, yeah, because I saw on the video,
Right. Go ahead, Skip.
I'm good.
All right. The other thing I wanted to ask you is this. When you think about the NFL level, they rave about your route running already. This is how I knew you were a big-time receiver. Whenever I saw Alabama in just a touch of trouble, I'm like, damn it, just get him the ball. just get Amari Cooper the ball, and he'll figure it out.
I think Lane Kiffin was right there with you.
That's right. How about that? He should have been. He should have been more, to be quite honest with you. But I want to know, coming from Alabama, coming from Nick Saban's system, particularly with Lane Kiffin, what do you think that did for your game to prepare you for the next level? And how so?
I was in a pro-style offense. I got moved around a lot, so I know how to play each wide receiver position. And we went against the best week in and week out, so I think I'll be ready.
What position, if you had your preference, what would it be based on all the moving around that you've done? How do you think you'll be best utilized on the next level?
Well, I think I can play all the different positions. I really like playing outside better because in the inside, it's less of a challenge. You go against linebackers and safeties who aren't really paid to cover.
Right.
So you want the challenge?
Oh, I want the challenge, yeah.
Got it.
I hear you were a Dolphin fan growing up, obviously. Would it be exciting to play with these guys?
Well, I really wanted to get away from home. That's why I went to Alabama. So I don't think I want to go back and play for Miami, but I'm still a Dolphins fan.
All right, we leave it there. We wish you the best of luck.
All the best, bro.
Seriously.
Thank you.
A little later on, folks, we'll tell you about everyone else who is going to be coming up on the show this week, but other projected draft picks. Take a look. We just heard from Amari Cooper. Tomorrow, USC defensive lineman Leonard Williams. On Wednesday, Florida linebacker Dante Fowler. Thursday, if Amari Cooper isn't the first wideout taken, which he says he should be, this kid, West Virginia's Kevin White, will join us. And on Friday, Missouri defensive end Shane Ray.
For the record, I've been on the record. I ain't saying it just because you're here.
Be on the record.
Amari Cooper would be my first wide receiver taken.
And you're definitely not saying that because he's sitting.
Well, I've said it before. I just want the record to
He doesn't do that. He speaks honestly. He doesn't try to win people over. He doesn't do that.
I don't care.
You don't care what he says.
If Kevin White was right there, I'd tell Kevin White, look, you're going second, not first.
Caps Celtics, interesting start before LeBron and Kyrie put on a show. James had 27 and 6 assists, leading the way for a team with little to no playoff experience. In Kyrie Irving's debut, he scored 30 points, hit 5 three-pointers. He's the first player in NBA history with 30 and 5 threes in a postseason debut. Here's Kyrie on the win.
You know, big games, you always want to get up for. It's what you prepare your whole life for. It's what you dream of as a kid, and come in as a fourth-year player, come in my first playoff series, just wanted to play well, and do whatever it took to win.
All right, so Stephen A, they don't look unstoppable, as you said, going into break, but is there any team in the East that can beat the Cavs?
The Chicago Bulls, with a healthy Derrick Rose, could potentially take out the Cleveland Cavaliers. I wouldn't bet my money on it because that's betting your money on Derrick Rose remaining healthy. But if Derrick Rose is healthy, the Chicago Bulls can beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's be clear. And let's be clear that most people who have picked the Cleveland Cavaliers to come out of the East, there are some like Skip and a few others who did it from day one. But half the folks who are picking Cleveland now changed, like me, from their preseason pick of Chicago to Cleveland because Derrick Rose is going down twice this year, and he ended the regular season with knee soreness. So because of that, you just look at, I like Jimmy Butler a lot. Chicago made a very big mistake not getting him re-upped the first week of the season when they had an opportunity to do so, because it's going to end up costing them more money, particularly with the questionable health of Derrick Rose. But then you look at Tony Snell, you look at Pau Gasol, who's been a welcomed acquisition. Wow. Joakim Noah had off-season surgery. He's been working himself into good health this entire season. Hopefully he's there and he'll remain there for the remainder of this season, for these playoffs. You look at the personnel, Meridish, You look at the way they've been playing. He's my rookie of the year, not Andrew Wiggins. Okay, the way this kid has been playing, 24 years old, being in Europe over the last couple of years. They've got the best offensive talent they've had in the Tom Thibodeau era. When you combine that with Tom Thibodeau's ability to coach defense, combined with the fact that this is in all likelihood his last year coaching in Chicago, I think all the elements are there for Chicago to potentially take out Cleveland if indeed Derrick Rose is healthy. But the reason why that question can't be answered right now, is because we simply don't know how much Derrick Rose will hold up. He looked very good in game one. But remember, he had 30-7 against Chicago before the All-Star break, and then he went down and got injured thereafter. Okay. So the point that I'm trying to make to you is that, once again, you can see a good outing from Derrick Rose, and you turn around, and it's a damn off day, and you hear he's hurt. You're like, what happened? I just saw him last night. He looked pretty healthy to me, and then the next thing you know, he's down. So you can't rely on his health. But that's the biggest question. A healthy Derrick Rose with Aaron Brooks, with a Jimmy Butler, with a Pau Gasol and a Joakim Noah, and those boys, oh, yes, they could be Cleveland. But you also have Kyrie Irving to contend with. The brother's big time. I've been telling y'all, this kid is nasty. Kyrie Irving's special, and his mental makeup is special because he's the anti-Darren Williams. He's going to bring it. He's going to show up. He's going to let you know, I'm here, and y'all ain't going to have this show without me. I'm going to put on my own show, and he's got the skills to pull it off. Kyrie Irving is big time. So, again, Cleveland's the favorite. Chicago could knock them off if Derrick Rose is healthy. That's the only team I give a shot to in the East. I don't give Atlanta much of a shot against Cleveland. I'm sorry. And Atlanta's quick. Jeff Teague is special. They have a cat quickness. They can shoot with a Kyle Korver and a Carroll and those boys.
And then Schroeder comes off the bench.
And then Schroeder comes off the bench. He does his thing. I know Atlanta's a good team, and they got home court advantage. I expect them to have a say. It's just that I got to see them take LeBron out to believe it.
And they lost Cephalosha.
Yeah. And they lost Cephalosha. It's a huge loss for them.
It's a huge loss. First, let me say, the Boston Celtics were just what the doctor ordered for LeBron's new team. The Celtics finished in the 8th seed with a 40-42 record. And do you realize that LeBron James has played in more playoff games than the entire Celtics roster combined?
That's right.
So with his new team, LeBron's, with a Kyrie and a Kevin Love who'd never played in a playoff game, what better way to start than against an even more inexperienced team?
Baby food.
And by the way, you can bring in James Jones off the bench. He made a big shot yesterday all of a sudden. You know, he'll contribute a little bit. So they do have some experience. So I look at yesterday and I say, okay, bully for them. Next. Because this is going to be a sweep. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They're going to sweep the Celtics.
I picked the sweep, yeah.
Did you? Yeah, I did too. Okay, so now, on to the next round or the next round. We don't know how it's all going to. Listen, it's going to come down to Bulls and Cavaliers, and I agree with you. And I'm going to allow you, and I will not shame you for this, to switch your pick on this because you would deserve to. If Derrick Rose continues to play like he did, was it Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was big time. And I told you the procedure, the arthroscopic procedure he had, not a big deal. He's bounced back. In fact, the soreness he had 4 days ago now, was in his other knee, the good knee.
You're leaning all your pressure on the good leg.
Okay, all right, fine. But again, when you can go 9 for 16 against a Milwaukee team that is legit, a Jason Kidd coach team, we both thought Jason Kidd did a great job with this team. When you can tear it apart the way Derrick Rose did, he looked like the MVP. Well, if you keep playing at that level with all these new pieces, with Gasol and Mirotic, like you say, and Tony Snell, I don't know. Well, I'd say that's about a 50-50 battle to me. And this team will battle you on the backboards and blocking shots and
no question
physicality.
About it. No question about it. Yep. So it'll be real interesting to see.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
This kid is a gamer. He's a baller. He's a playmaker and a shot caller. In case you didn't know, I got Tebow. He shattered the mold, and all he does is win. All he does is win games. Listen, I got Tebow. He shattered the mold, and all he does is win. All he does is unleash.
Tell Tebow, let him go.
It's time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play. Let him play.
On Sunday.
Unleash.
Tell Tebow, let him go.
It's time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play.
I'm going to church Sunday.
Run, pass, option. I think that's my game.
I guarantee you that.
I'm no John Elway.
He's rewriting the book. Week in and week out.
He's a unique
football player. That's what Tim Tebow's all about.
He's a gamer. He's a baller. Playmaker. Shot caller. He's a gamer. He's a baller. Playmaker. Shot caller. Unleash.
Tim Tebow. Let him go.
It's time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play. Let him play.
On Sunday.
And all he does is win. All he does is win.
One more day, one more win.
All he does is win games.
The Eagles plan to sign quarterback Tim Tebow to a one-year minimum salary deal on Monday, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter and multiple reports. The signing first reported by Fox Sports. When the Eagles finalize the deal, they'll have 3 of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the league over the last 5 years under contract. Tebow, Mark Sanchez, and Sam Bradford. We welcome in our NFL analyst, dear friend, Mark Schler. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Always good to see you, big boy.
It's my pleasure to be with you folks.
By the way, we should probably ban that video for Tim Tebow's sake now. Just to take a little pressure off.
I thought I would never see it again.
I hadn't heard it in forever, and it's actually really catchy.
I know, you were sitting like bobbing your head and moving a little dancing.
First of all, it's not even about Tebow. Tebow's not the star of the video. It's Skip.
I thought you were the star.
Please.
No, it was all you.
It was all you.
Well, it won an award.
Well, there you go.
Let him play.
It's always nice to dust that off. Okay, so obviously you know what you're here. What do you think of the signing of Tim Tebow with the Eagles?
Well, I think the whole offseason has been very curious. The signings and the trades and all those things have been very curious at the very least for Chip Kelly and the Philadelphia Eagles. And the bottom line is this. I understand believing in a system. I get that. But the bottom line is talent trumps the system. And you basically create a system based on the talent and the players that you have in the National Football League. I always look at the New England Patriots and say their system essentially is, what is your weakness and how are we going to attack it with the players that we have? And you've got a guy that in Gray that, goes for 200 yards and the next thing you know, he doesn't even dress. I mean, that's the way they operate. And to me, don't be so enamored with a system that you think you can plug anybody into it, because the system is what wins games. Players and talent, to me, is what wins games. So I think these offseason moves have been very curious, to say the least, and I'm not a believer.
Well, first of all, I deeply appreciate you articulating that position, because obviously I've been on the record articulating just as much. Now, I've used the word uncomfortable. I'm not asking you to go there, but Tell me if I'm wrong where I'm going with this.
Okay.
I simply asked the question, Deshaun Jackson, one of the biggest wideout threats in the game, going a year earlier. LaShawn McCoy, one of the top 3 running backs in the game. No, we don't want him for our locker room either. And then you got a Jeremy Maclin, you let get away and go to Kansas City. But somehow, some way, Riley Cooper stays on, and now Tim Tebow is there. What exactly is Chip Kelly trying to say in your estimation? Because I don't understand.
I don't understand it either. I mean, I look at it from just a pure athletic ability. When I talk to guys that play defense in the league, up even last year, they all said to a man, the one guy that you fear when you play the Philadelphia Eagles and Chip Kelly's offense, obviously the speed with which you call plays and the frequency with which you call plays, that's hard because you have to line up and it has to be kind of keep it simple, stupid football, right? You've got to be very limited in what you do defensively. But the one guy that you feel like going in, we have to shut this guy out because he's such a difference maker, is LaShawn McCoy. And they said the bottom line for LaShawn McCoy with that offense is whether it's catching the ball out of the backfield or whether it's blocking a play that's a minus gain, a minus yardage play or a 1-yard gain, that guy makes 3 people miss in the backfield and he takes it for 30-plus yards, and it skews statistics. So they all say that's the one guy you had to shut down. You've taken your most dynamic offensive football player and said, see you around. By the way, in the last 2 seasons, you've taken your most dynamic receiver, shipped him off to Washington. You've taken your second best receiver, let him go to Kansas City, and now you've shipped off your most dynamic football player on that roster, and he plays for Buffalo. It doesn't make sense to me.
I hear everything both of you just said. Now let's look at the facts. Chip Kelly is the ultimate watch this coach in the National Football League because he refuses to think like any other coach in the National Football League. He still thinks like a college coach, which is why if Tim Tebow, after 2 complete football seasons out of the league, can succeed anywhere, it will be for this guy because this guy will say, watch what I can do with Tim Tebow. I ask you a question. I asked him this to start the show. What NFL team over the last 2 seasons ran by far the most zone read of any team in the National League, National Football League, times 2 more than any other team? It was Chip Kelly's team. 514 times he called the zone read. Next on the list was Seattle at 235. Wow, really? You ran that many more zone reads? Well, tell me this, because you were the expert on the Denver Broncos. What did the one thing that Tim Tebow did best in Denver, because he turned them into the #1 rushing attack in all of pro football, was doing what? Ride and decide. Could he do that with Willis McGahee? He did it pretty well.
Let me ask you this. How many quarterbacks have they gone through in that time frame in Philadelphia?
Well, Nick Foles got hurt, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You run that style offense.
Okay,
And
did Nick Foles run it at all in college?
Mike Vick got hurt. Nick Foles gets hurt.
Did Mark Sanchez run it in college? Nobody killed Dallas with it on Thanksgiving night.
You can't survive in the league running that full time. The way that Philadelphia, I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. You talk about facts. The fact is their quarterbacks can't survive 16 games. They've proven it.
If one guy can make it work and survive it, it is Tim Tebow, because he is built to take that kind of beating at 235 or 40 pounds. He took it pretty well in Denver that year, and it was a beating that he took. And after that New England debacle in the playoff game, he was pretty much done for that year.
Question for both of y'all this way. Is this Chip Kelly's way of saying he's really not interested in throwing the football?
Well, there's been speculation. Obviously, there's speculation that he wants to run the ball more of a power run game. DeMarco Murray would fit that conceptually.
Along with Tim Tebow potentially.
But the bottom line for me is I look at them, and this is where numbers and stats lie oftentimes. We will look at a team like Philadelphia and say, wow, they're a great running football team. But they spread you out, and then you've got LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. He makes 3 people miss, and in a 1-yard gain or a minus or a 0-yardage gain is a 30-yard gain, and you say, wow, they're pretty good. To me, a good running team is a team that can dictate to you in 3rd down and 2. We're going to cram it down your gullet, and there's nothing you can do about it. They don't have the makeup up front. They've got an elite left tackle, and they've got some small guys that can flat run and get on the edge of people. That's what they do. That style of offense is not a Dallas Cowboy, let's get 5 offensive linemen, let's get double tight ends and a fullback, let's get in a tiger personnel grouping, and let's cram it down your gullet and see if you can do it. That's the style that DeMarco Murray had success in. That style does not exist in Philadelphia. So that's another concern for me as far as running the ball is, as far as, because the stats, in my mind, they lie. You look at the stats there, that's not that style. So that's another concern. I have concerns. Maybe, he'll shut me up and they'll be great and it'll all work out. I doubt it, but that's why I'm here and that's why he's there.
So now, I'm not going to rule out the possibility that Chip Kelly still lands Marcus Mariota. I just wouldn't put it past him.
But wait, I still want you to answer it from the perspective, Skip, that because basically a Macklin's going, a Deshaun Jackson's going, all right, I'm asking a question about running because who's the receiver that you're going to throw it to? Who's the guy you have that show you he can go get open?
Right.
Who's that guy?
Matthews played pretty well last year.
Jordan Matthews. He's impressive. You got him.
Vanderbilt University.
That's right. Yes,
He's pretty good.
That's right.
And listen, I brought this up to Stephen A., but there is some rapport that got developed during their senior seasons at the University of Florida between Riley Cooper and Tim Tebow. They were roommates. And Riley Cooper caught 9 touchdown passes, caught 51 balls, caught almost 1,000 yards worth of passes. Opposite, who else is there? Percy Harvin was there. Maybe that was just the junior year. I can't remember.
Here's the one thing that still concerns me. We talk about all the time about, hey, working out for 2 years and working on his mechanics with Tom House, and all those things are great. And there's nobody that works harder than Tim Tebow. It comes down to a processing issue for me, and that's not about intelligence. That's about how quickly you process information. In the National Football League, we've seen a ton of great collegiate athletes, guys that can run, jump, do all those things, get on an NFL field, and don't process information
on
quickly
the spot in game action.
So think about this. Like, I break a huddle and I'm playing offensive guard, and my center is covered, and I'm working in combination with my center to the Mike linebacker. Okay, that's our blocking combination. I get in the huddle. I get on the line of scrimmage. I put my hand in the dirt. Blue 80, blue 80. We're getting to this cadence, and all of a sudden that nose guard moves to a 3 technique. Now, right before the ball snap. Now I change what I'm doing. I no longer have combination with my center to the mic. Now I'm working with my left tackle to the weak side linebacker. Now all of a sudden that weak side linebacker in the middle of that starts to walk out over the slot, and here comes the safety down in rotation. Now I've got to change that all during blue 80, set up. And you've got to be able to process that information that quickly.
Chip Kelly doesn't work that way.
That to me,
they don't do it that way.
It doesn't matter.
The reads are made for you in this offense.
When you're reading coverage, when you're trying to throw the ball, and you're going to have to throw it occasionally, you have to be able to process information that way. So to me, combine stuff, combine stuff is nothing more than a test of your athleticism. You really want to decide whether guys can play at the next level? Do you have elite reaction time? You should be doing nerve conduction studies. How fast do you process information? How fast does something go from your brain to your extremities where you can explode? Because I've seen a lot of guys over the course of my career that run 4.4 in shorts and a t-shirt that run 4.95 when they put pads on. And I've seen a lot of 4.8 guys that run because they have elite reaction time 4.6 on a football field or the equivalent thereof because their reaction time is like that. So to me, it's about reaction time. And that has nothing to do with intelligence. I mean, that is God-given ability, just like athleticism. Your reaction time is either elite or it's not elite. And if it's not elite at the next level in the NFL or in the NBA or Major League Baseball, guess what? You don't play.
Now, he explained it far more intellectually than I could ever hope to, Skip. But that, when I watched Tim Tebow, it's not just about his ability to throw a spiral or whatever. It's about him sitting back, Skip, and maybe because of the Jets. When we both thought he said, I saw him on a couple of occasions, Skip, literally go like this.
Hesitate.
Okay.
You know?
But not in Denver.
That's true.
He has elite reaction time running the zone read. I've never seen anybody run it better than Tim Tebow. Again, to take a 1-4 football team that was dead in the water and turn it into the #1 rushing attack with an aging Willis McGahee as your feature back, that's pretty extraordinary. And again, you cannot take away the wins from it. He did win those games.
All of that for a second, because I'm not taking that away. I want to ask you, you brought up Chip Kelly. When he was talking, you said that's not what Chip Kelly does. Explain that.
The offense is set up where off the zone read, your options are not for you to decide. You get one quick ride and decide option, but if you step back to throw it, the reads are made for you. They're easier to make, especially because when you're riding and deciding, you got the defense way off balance.
Right.
How many open receivers did Tim Tebow have in Denver? Now, he missed a bunch of them, too. I'd be the first to admit it. But, again, I had a personnel man last night tell me, I told you this to start the show, I respect him, I've known him for years, and he said, look, if Tebow can just make routine throws for this coach, just routine throws, where the guy's open and you just have to drop it right here where you can catch it, this could turn into the University of Florida.
Here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. He had that in Denver, riding the side, right, run the ball. He completed in his career one season 46%. His career is just under 47%. So even if he has this miraculous recovery or miraculous gain in completion percentage and accuracy, let's say he moves up a whole nother 10%, he's still woefully inadequate when it comes to throwing the football. And those are the things you have to weigh out. And that's why you're right. There's one team right now that's willing to give him an opportunity. Now
One
he's going to have to go
coach,
up
just
through.
one man. One man.
Right.
And again, I'm going to throw this out one last time, because I'm close with Tom House. I've known him forever since he was a pitching coach for the Texas Rangers. You know him.
Tom is great.
He really knows his stuff. He is a throwing mechanics guru. He has told me, and he told Chip Kelly, when he has Tim Tebow through the offseason, he throws the heck out of the football. And I told Stephen A, I'm being harshly objective here, I think Tim started choking when he went to New England, especially, where he's just overthinking it. He's over-gripping the ball. It's like he's trying too hard. He's going to have to relax and just cut loose with it.
The problem that you get into when you've taken what you've done your whole life and you've tried to basically change that over the course of a couple of years. Now, let me tell you something. That dude is the hardest working dude on the face of the planet. Right? Yeah. Okay, but when pressure comes and things break down as they're apt to do in the National Football League, you revert back to what your body mechanics have known your whole life, and that's, I think, to me, that's an issue. But obviously you can get better. I don't think you ever become a really poor accuracy guy and all of a sudden become an elite accuracy guy. You can get better at it.
Although,
I think you're born with a certain skill set.
Point. Last 5 minutes of those games that he started through that run in Denver, last 5 minutes, he had the #1 QBR in the National Football League.
We haven't heard that.
Think about that. #1 QBR, because he got accurate when he had to. And you kept arguing, well, he dug the hole so deep he had to
That's true, but we also don't have to think about that now, Skip, because it's a few years.
In closing, does he make the roster? And if not, is this his last chance in the NFL? Quickly.
I don't. As a quarterback, I don't think he'll make the roster. And is it his last chance? If he switched positions, he'd be given an opportunity to play.
I don't think so.
Back or whatever.
I don't think he's fast enough.
I don't think he's going to switch positions. I think he's fast enough. I think he's athletic enough to do that. I just don't think he's willing to give that a whirl. But we shall see.
What about what Ali had to endure in order to win championships? In order to be...
I'm going through the same thing in today's time. What are you talking about?
How is what you're going through, how does that equate? Explain, because I'm just curious. How does that equate? So Ali, refusing to enter, to go into the Vietnam War, to represent his country in the armed services, to being ostracized throughout this country, you understand, because of it. In those times,
so you're gonna say,
in immediate aftermath of the civil rights era, how does that compare?
So Mayweather don't deal with
Oh, I think you do. I'm just talking about comparing it to that time.
You don't deal with racism every day? You don't think I deal with racism every day? You don't think I go through this every day? Me?
I think you go through it. But what I'm saying is that we do live in a different time. That's what I mean by that. We do live in a different time.
And guess what? It's easier to get to. Guess what? It's different because you know what? Everyone sees it now. Back then, only a certain few could see it. Now the world sees it. Now the world sees whatever goes on. Whatever anybody write, anybody say, the world sees it.
All right, Floyd Mayweather on racism. Stephen A, help me out here. He didn't really say what he actually endures. Your take on his thoughts on how he deals with racism, as does Ali.
Regardless of what Floyd chooses to or fails to elaborate on when he's talking about racism, Skip. Obviously, when we think about what Ali went through, We lived in a different time.
Sure.
Obviously, he was somebody that refused to enter the Vietnam War, and you know what the residue of that impact was. But what Floyd is talking about is two-part. Number one, there was a large segment of the black populace that sided with Ali, because back in those days, even more so than today, in terms of black empowerment, in terms of the blight that existed within the black community, highlighting the overt racism that existed in our country. Ali was unapologetic about speaking into those things, and things were far more overt and far less subtle than it is today. But what Floyd is saying is that, oh, trust me, no matter how subtle it exists, no matter how much money I make, no matter how much success I've achieved, make no mistake about it, there are people out there. I experienced it to this day myself. Now, you might have people that look at him and they look at how he flosses, like you pointed out, how he throws his money around, and a lot of it, undoubtedly, he brings on himself. There's just no question about it. And then you have the situation with women, and obviously that's been well documented. And because of that, you have that segment of our population that feels the way that they feel about it. Okay, but what he's also saying is this: even with all of that taken into consideration, think about what he has been able to accomplish as a black man in terms of owning his own brand, being his own boss, employing other individuals, making more money than anybody has in the history of the sport, being worth what he's worth. In that piece, he also alludes to how many athletes come up to him for his advice on how he was able to do it, because they aspire to be in control of themselves the way that he is, in terms of controlling your own destiny, because you're the boss. You see what I'm saying? And he says, you don't think that I experienced some level of racism because of that? Absolutely. And in that regard, I definitely can stomach that. That's not to eradicate or omit what Floyd brings on himself, because it's undoubtedly so. And if Floyd tries to deny it, it's kind of foolish, because that's what has led to him making the money that he was making. If he was mild-mannered, quiet, didn't floss, didn't create this aura about himself that people either loved or loved to hate, then Floyd wouldn't be worth what he is today, because he wouldn't have been able to generate what he's been able to generate monetarily as a boxer. But there is no doubt, Skip, in you pointing as fair-minded as you have been in terms of all the things that have existed in the black community, what you've witnessed, what you know as a black woman, we have to go through as black people. What I know as a black man, what we have to go through as black people. There is no question that there is a healthy level of animosity for Floyd Mayweather. Outside of all of those things, there's a healthy level of animosity that comes his way simply because he is a black man who has accomplished what he has accomplished, and you can't tell him what to do, and you can't control him. And that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. By the way, his other line to you was, I'm an employer. Pacquiao is an employee.
Yes, he says that all the time.
I know. But that frames it for me. Okay, now back to this case in point. Do I have any idea as a white man what it feels like to walk in this young man's, 38-year-old young man's shoes? I have no idea. Does he feel racism on a daily basis? I have no doubt that he does. And if he does, if he perceives it to be racism, fine, good by me. Do you feel even subtle racism on a daily basis?
Every day.
I'm sure you do. Do you feel subtle racism? Or I'm doing even subtle. Yes, maybe more overt instead of covert. Yeah.
But some people bring it on themselves more than others because of their behavior.
Okay,
and they confuse it with racism.
Get it? Yes. Respect it?
Sure.
Okay. Now, again, I'm such an Ali fan that I get offended by this because I don't know exactly what Muhammad Ali went through in his days as Cassius Clay in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know exactly, but I do know, as you point out, that he was a conscientious objector, that he took a stand. He used his star power. He risked his star power to take a stand for racism and against the Vietnam War. And he missed 3.5 of the most prime years of your career you could miss. From age 25 through almost to 28, he did not box because he was taking a stand. Man, at the time, a lot of people hated him for that. And he changed his name from, obviously, Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, made him an even bigger target to some people in white America. It's both the race and the religion come into play, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this man took an incredibly courageous stand that he got little to no credit from much of America for during these years. Then he fought all the way to the Supreme Court. 1971, he wins his case in the Supreme Court. He comes back and becomes once again an extremely successful, we both agree, the greatest boxer ever. Okay, how can Floyd dare, how can he dare to compare what he's going through as he's driving his Bentley talking to you with what this man went through? It just seems disrespectful, and it seems like that you two would be a little offended by it, just a little bit, right?
Well,
is that fair?
No, you don't.
No, I'm not going to say I'm offended by it. I disagree with him.
Okay.
I don't feel the way that he feels, but I'm not him, and I don't have to deal with what he's had to deal with. And I'm going to keep reminding you of a very important point. Boxers, by and large, represent themselves. They don't have any representation. Let's also take into account the fact that he's a fighter. So he's somebody that hasn't been educated in the world of political correctness and things you feel and don't feel, things you should say and you don't say. Let's keep that in mind. Let's also keep in mind something very important that we don't bring out enough. You have some people, while they love Ali, there also some folks actually get upset because as great as Ali was and as special as he is and remains to be, let's not gloss over the fact that the deity, the godlike figure that Ali has elevated to, it's basically once the Parkinson's has kicked in, and you have a lot of people coming forward, and they're putting him out there front and center. You have a lot of people.
More of a sympathetic figure?
I don't want to say sympathetic, because for us, we appreciate him because of the sacrifices that he was willing to make. But you do have people within the black community who are resentful of the fact that white America is so eager to embrace him and put him front and center now that he has Parkinson's. But when he was knocking cats out, and when he was doing what he was doing, when he went on the record and said, no Viet Cong ever called me the N-word, okay? That was a source of hatred that people used to throw in his direction. But now that I don't want to use the word helpless, I know Layla Ali. She's a friend of mine. She's a wonderful woman. The Ali family are wonderful people. And Ali, to me, is the greatest. But you do have people within the black community. They hate the fact that at every turn it seems like other segments of our population, not just in America but globally, are willing to put him front and center now that he has Parkinson's. But when he wasn't suffering from that, okay, and he didn't need assistance and all of this other stuff. Oh, no. He was a source of resentment then. And it was one community who was standing up. And I'm not trying to say there were people outside the black community that didn't help Ali, because there were a lot of white folks that helped Ali too, to be fair. But by and large, he had the support of black America. And now that that stuff is over, everybody else wants to stand up and act like they loved him all along. And Floyd is saying, nah. You understand what I'm saying? I've been hated, but look at what he sacrificed. Is that what it takes to be as great as he is? It shouldn't require that. Floyd has a point there.
So
that point, he has a point.
You disagree that there is no way in the world he can compare what Ali went through?
No. And I've said that to Floyd on several occasions. You can't compare what you went through. But what he's talking about, you're not around to see how I'm treated privately by folks I run into and the things that they say and the way that they act towards me.
Some of it brought on by himself, as you mentioned.
Okay, last quick point. I can't speak for the rest of the white community, but I can speak for this white guy. I was cheering Ali in 67, 68, 69 when he boxed, and I was applauding the stances.
You also have been on the record to say that you felt in the minority at that time.
Everybody wasn't like you.
I'm not sure of that, but
you did.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that. Tony Romo was a special guest at the Academy Country Music Awards held at Jerry's World last night. After a short interaction with country stars Blake Shelton and Luke Bryan, Romo took a shot at the Patriots with a Deflategate joke. Skip, you know the joke.
Yes, I do.
Did you have a problem with that?
Stephen A. Smith, even as a Dallas Cowboy fan lifelong, I had a big problem with this. I didn't like it. I thought it was out of bounds, hit me wrong. I just saw a clip of the video of it. I'm sure he was encouraged by the producers of the, what was it, Country Music Awards?
Yes.
To go with the flow and make a little joke about Deflategate. Tony Romo has started now 9 years for my Dallas Cowboys, and as you keep reminding me, he's won now 2 playoff games, and both of them were wild card playoff games. This past playoffs, he won 1 wild card game. Should have won the second in Green Bay, but that's a whole nother story.
That was a catch.
Okay. Tom Brady, clearly, I don't even need to point this out to you, has won 6 championship games, 6 AFC championship games, and 4 Super Bowls. How dare you, Tony Romo, after 9 years as a starter, to go with the flow and make this joke on national television? It's just out of bounds. I'm sorry.
What do you want me to say?
Say thank you for saying that.
Thank you for saying that, Skip Bayless. You know your brilliance in your elocution. I'm very, very touched. I mean, you make a very, very valid point. Could it be jealousy? I mean, anything's possible. But in all seriousness, as somebody who's had to be a presenter at awards, somebody.
I know you're supposed to.
I'm just saying, you go along with it. You know, there are certain things that are out of bounds. There are things that folks have tried to get me to say, and I said, hell no. And that's it.
Did you?
But you know, sometimes when you're a football player, you're relatively mild-mannered. You don't look at it that way. You don't think it's all in fun. It's not a big deal. So I'm, in all seriousness, I'm not going to knock Tony Romo for that. But you're right that it was out of bounds. He should know better in the future. But this is foreign territory.
Yeah, I just wonder if he flinched when he read the script because it was clearly.
He might have. But
sometimes a sense of humor is an acquired taste. So we all get it. Bad joke. Next week, we're there. I can't believe it's so quick. It just happened yesterday. We're on the road. We're heading to Vegas. We'll be at the MGM Grand Pool Complex Wednesday, April 29th through May 1st.
Skip Bayless.
What's the problem? No curfew.
You got to hang out. You in Vegas.
Yeah, right.
You got to hang out, Skip.
Yeah, right.
No curfew.
We have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You get that, don't you?
Well, you know what that means. We go to dinner, we do the casino, then straight to the set.
Oh, one of those deals.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
50 Cent will be there, Jake Gyllenhaal, Jamie Foxx. Skip will be there. Stephen A. and
Jamie
Skip.
Foxx is
you guys
coming on the
are both
show?
the same person. Yeah.
Did I approve Jamie Foxx coming on this show? I did not approve Jamie Foxx coming on this show.
Okay.
Well, you might try to clown.
I do.
I like the idea.
I'm scared of it.
I'm hoping Kevin Hart will join us.
Kevin?
Yeah.
We got a high chair for him. We got a high chair for him. He come on. Come on, Kevin.
Why do you do that to this guy?
You might have to box him.
Why you gonna hit me on my knees? I'm only kidding, Kev. I'm only kidding, Kev.
Stephen said Kevin Hart will.
I'm only kidding, Kev. I'm only kidding. He tried to take my job. He deserves me getting on him. He tried to take my job. He came up here and said, all I got to do is make funny faces and scream.
In closing, more on the NBA playoffs tomorrow. We'll see you at 10 a.m. Eastern right here on ESPN.
Kevin, can you hit the backboard?
Oh, boy.
The bottom.
Okay.
I'm just asking.
Okay. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and make sure you catch us on the road for Fight Week in Vegas, April 29th through May 1st. We're live with special guests at the MGM Grand Pool Complex. Doors open at 5:30 a.m. local time. Hope to see you there.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
A new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.